Welcome back. This is video number 7. We're going to talk about layout elements. Okay, so we're going to scroll down and let's add some layout elements. So what does that mean? Well, let's go to it. So we've got buttons, we've got columns, we have media and text, we have more, we have page breaks, we have separators and spacers. So as you can see, what this does is it allows you to add a call to action button. So if you want to link to maybe another page or perhaps a buy button or something else, you can do that. You can do columns. So let's go ahead and make a button, click button. So as you can imagine here, you're going to enter the URL of the website that you want to link to. So in this case, we'll just use google.com. Click apply. So you'll need to click this and that's it. Okay, so next you want to change the text. To change the text, you can simply click the mouse here and change the text. So that's the button. Now, of course, you can change the color if you want to. So you can change it to green, you can change it to orange, you can change the text color however you wish, like so. And that's it. So that's a button. So if we go back here and go to layout elements, let's click on columns. So this allows you to add different columns of text. So you can have text over here, and of course you can have text over here. All right, so that's columns. So next up we have media and text. So as you can see, this allows you to add images, and let's say we want to have the text surrounding the image. If you want to do that, that's good here. So you can add the image, you can add the text, and you can add more text over here. So that's basically what it is. And then of course, next we have more. So more is if you can imagine you went to a news site or you went to a big site that had like articles and information, a lot of times you would see something like read more. So they would click read more and then they would be able to see the other information down below. So that's what read more is, and that's what that layout element is. So that comes in handy, especially when you have such a long page. So next we have page break. So that's a page break. So that allows you to have several pages. So the only time you would really use that is if you had a very, very long page and you don't want people to have to scroll. They would simply be able to go to the next page if they choose to do so. So it just makes it easier on the end user. Separator is simply something like a divider, like that. And next we have spacer. So just as it says, this allows you to create spaces in between the blocks. So if you don't want your blocks to be too cluttered and close together, you would use this. Now you can change the height in pixels right here. So let's say I'm thinking, well, that's too much of a space, so I want something like 50. So you can see that you can change the height. And that's it. So that covers the formatting blocks. Hello and welcome to video number 8. So if you're not ready for Gutenberg, how do you revert back to the classic editor? So like many people, you may not be ready for Gutenberg. In fact, if you do a search for it, you're going to see a huge amount of negative reviews. And this is simply because of the learning curve. It's not necessarily because it's bad. In fact, if you see, it's clearly a lot better than the classic editor in so many ways. But let's say, for example, you have a client who has a website and they just don't want to go over the learning curve and they're editing the site themselves and they're just frustrated and they're like, I want to go back to the classic editor. If that is the case, then I'm going to give you some options. There are two ways for you to switch back to the old classic editor that you may be used to. Number one, option one is to install the classic editor WordPress plugin. And number two, you can disable the Gutenberg WordPress plugin. Now, bear in mind that option one is what most of you are going to implement. Option two, and the reason why I included this was because some of your clients or some websites that might be outdated, that haven't been updated, may be utilizing the Gutenberg WordPress plugin. But nowadays, from now and on, all of the WordPress updates include the Gutenberg editor built into it. So if that's the case, you will need to use option one. Option two is very obvious. If somebody installed the Gutenberg WordPress plugin, they would simply need to disable it. So what I'm going to do now is to show you how to install the classic editor WordPress plugin. So we're going to hop on over to the website. And to do that, you simply go to plugins, you go to the add new plugin, you go over here, you enter the keyword classic editor. This is the classic editor. As you can see, it enables the previous classic editor and the old style tiny MCE. So you click install now, click activate, and that's it. So now that the old classic editor plugin has been installed, you don't want to go ahead and edit right away just yet. What you need to do is click on settings. So this allows you to customize the editor a little bit. So formatting, you're not going to need to worry about this right here, but by default, it'll convert emoticons like the smiley face and all of that to actual graphics. So as you can see, it says default editor for all users. We got the classic editor, allow users to switch editors. So we've got the block editor here and the classic editor. So you can allow them to switch back and forth. Honestly, if you have clients and they just don't like the editors, I would just disable it, click no, unless they ask you, hey, can you switch it back? Because otherwise it will literally confuse them. So that's it. What we need to do now is simply go back to posts. We click on add new. And there we go. So now we are back to the old classic editor. So if you're used to that, you don't have to worry about the blocks or anything like that. We're back to normal. And that's it. That's how easy it is to revert back to the old classic editor. So like I said, option two really is only there if your client is using an old website. But for the majority of the cases, 99.9% of the time, you're going to utilize option number one.
When you want to get off the darkest ground, but gravity pulls you straight down. Earth from a bird's eye view. You should grow feathers and see this too.